Everybody to our series of online roundtables, and title here is Tips for Attention to Detail in the Golf Operation. And certainly we have one of the probably preeminent golf professionals in the country with Cary, Director of Golf at Southern Hills Country Club. And Cary, really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today and share your thoughts. And I thought I'd lead in, on our next slide here by showing, some of Cary's awards and accomplishments. And when I was reading this, I went through it and I said, the first thing that hit me, it was what happened in 2008, because it's the only year I can see in here that you didn't win anything or something like that.
We were actually in a trailer.
Oh,
we were reading in a golf shop, so yeah. I thought it was a pretty good year to do what we did, but the others didn't think so. I guess at AGM.
Well, that was a down year for you, but as you can tell,
down year. That's right. That's right.
Obviously, this is an impressive record, and you're not nobody can compile this kind of record without the attention to detail. So I think this is we probably got the best individual, or one of the best individuals we could have here talking about that. But as we're looking at this slide, Cary, I was just kind of curious, your history as a club professional, who were your role models and your mentors? How did you decide to get in the business? Those types of things. If you can kind of take us through that a little bit.
Sure. No, sure. And first, thanks. I appreciate being part of this. The webinars. I've gone back and listened to a number of them now, and really helpful information. You're always learning. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but I appreciate what you do and what GBN does. I know when I joined way back when, I was talking to a good friend down in Dallas, Cameron Doan at Preston Trail, and we thought, God, I ought to do it just for the networking, out here in the middle on the flyover states, as you just called it before we got on the phone. Maybe we could meet some guys on either coast. It would be good for all of us, and it's turned out to be so much more. So thank you for what you do, and it's really looking forward to seeing everybody down in Orlando. I'm a Club Pro kid. My dad is a PGA member and was at Hillcrest Country Club up in Bartlesville, just north of here, about an hour, for 41 years. And he worked for Hardy Loudermilk down in San Antonio. He was a national pro of the year in the 60s. And so I'm a gym rat. I've been around this a long time, and just grew up in a club, and I grew up around my dad's peers, and was able to. I didn't really know it at the time, but I think as I was growing up, through osmosis, I was just learning about the business, about the different ways of doing things, and like I said, it wasn't a conscious effort, but as I decided to get in the business, I quit playing, trying to go out and chase the mini tours after I finished school, and had an opportunity to work at Oak Tree Golf Club, or Oak Tree National now, in Edmond. And I was actually looking for part-time work, in the outside services where I feel comfortable, which I grew up doing that a lot, as you might imagine, as a Club Pros kid. But anyway, they had an assistant's job that was open, and I interviewed for that, and was lucky enough to get that. And then a couple years later, I worked for Dave Bryan here at Southern Hills for about 5 years, and then was fortunate enough to get to go to Wichita Country Club in 2000, and was there 15 seasons. As far as mentors, my dad, and really my mom, but my dad, from the golf side of things, is my biggest influence by a pretty good margin. But obviously working for Dave here for 5 years was great. I look at the guys I worked with too at Wichita, and the guys I worked with here as mentors, and learned a lot from the people that I worked with there, and then guys around the country that I just have relationships with that I don't know if I do it more, but I do it a lot. I call people and ask what they're doing on certain things. And again, that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later, on the alliance of who you share information with, and who you kind of get to check you, make sure you're doing things the right way. And Phil Owenby out at Chessie, used to be at Kinlock, is great, and Cameron Doan here, who I mentioned earlier, is a good friend. We talk a lot, especially about teaching, but we send assistants to each other, and for a couple of days just to see something different, kick the tires and do all those things. So I've had a lot. David Price at Bentry in Dallas. Like I said, all my dad's cronies were big influences on me in the business, and so I just got into it just being around it my whole life. I have two brothers that are both work in the industry. They work for Ping, doing various things there. So we're just kind of a golf family.
So did you know early on that you were going to become a club professional, or was there ever a time where you thought, you were going to do something else?
No, I was like a lot of guys. I wanted to play, so I was playing on playing.
You wanted to live the dream.
That's absolutely so. But I wasn't really thinking about it until I called to see if Oak Tree had any just kind of part-time work to get me to the next season to play some, and the opportunity to interview and get the job as an assistant came up, and here we are. So I turned my attention to that, and really I still love to play and play in tournaments and all that, but this channels my competition. So this is what I do. I try to compete every day to be the best and deliver the best to our membership and to their families and their guests.
And just real quick on your transition from Wichita to Southern Hills, how has that been for you? I mean, is there any big differences going into it, or things that surprise you that maybe you haven't dealt with before?
It's when I went to Wichita Country Club in 2000, the first year, and I know a lot of guys who've your first job, that first year you learn more than in that 1 year than you ever did as an assistant. I think just because you're in the fire and you don't have any other choice, you just kind of put your head down and go. And I thought about it every so often, if I ever left there, how difficult it'd be to be at a first year at another facility and be older and know what to expect. And I think having some familiarity with Southern Hills probably helped. There's I don't know if it's half, but something like that of the membership that I know, and the other half I'm getting to know right now. So I think having a little bit of a comfort level with the landscape here was probably helpful, and then having a roadmap for how we did it in Wichita, the failures and the successes, and of how to blend it. I think probably one of the tougher things was there were three assistants that were here, and we were kind of changing the size of the staff and the number of interns and things of that nature, and so we kind of Brady bunched the staff with two guys that I worked with in Wichita, and then three assistants that were here. The merchandiser who I worked with as an assistant, she left early in the spring. She just she wanted to just kind of chill out a little bit, and I'm not much on chilling out, especially right now. And so it was all good, but she wanted to do something different, and so we've kind of been working the staff, getting everybody on the same page, and I'm proud of how they've all kind of worked together and kind of been really good about the there's no egos. Haven't been too many of those issues that you could have had with the ones that were here and the guys that came in. So
sure.
And the guys that were here, they've been very, very open-minded. They were hired by Dave, not by me, so they didn't necessarily have to give me the benefit of the doubt, but I think they have, and I think they've been open to what trying to change a little bit, a few of the things here that we do, or that I was hired to do.
That's great. And I think what we'll do now is jump into our tips that you're gonna kind of go
Sure.
through with us. So, get into our first slide here. I'm going to let you just kind of talk, and then if I have questions, I'll just sort of interject.
Well, I think just kind of start with our philosophy here, and kind of what we did at Wichita was, I think it's really important to understand that the entire membership, they all have different wants and needs from the golf operation and from the club obviously too, but just from the golf operation for this conversation. So I think it's really important to the guys I always looked up to were the ones who I'd go to their club or their operation, and they did everything really well. They weren't just a great player or a great teacher or a great merchandiser, but they wore all the hats very well. And I think something we talk about a lot as a staff is, hey, listen, we need to make our service and what we offer personalized. We need to get to know what each member wants and how they want to use this club, and realize that some guys are big lesson takers and they're golf swing junkies, and we need to be good instructors and be up to date with what's going on there. And then others are players and they want a good playing professional staff that get out and play with them. They're happy when they love seeing us playing in tournaments and play well or just shoot a good score around here with the members. You got guys entertaining business clients, Tuesday through Friday, and so it's important that we can deliver a great experience to their guests from a service standpoint, and going down the line, merchandising and all of that. And so we really work hard at being excellent at every part of the operation. And we talk about it, ad nauseum. I'm sure the guys I work with would tell you that. But I just think it's negligent to focus on one part of the business, and I think you got to realize that people are there for different things, and so we got to get to know how they want to use the club each and every day, how their families want to use the club, and how and how their guests, what the guest experience is like. And so that really only happens when you pay attention to the smallest details. So you've got to be looking at your operation all the time, and inspect what you expect. And it's an old just business cliche. And so I walk from the parking lot through the cart barn. When I drive in from the guardhouse, I'm looking at the practice facility to make sure that that's set up to standards, and we'll talk a little bit about that again here in a second on those things. But just tour it, and I think as you tour the facility in every area that you're in charge of or responsible for, you'll see things, and as you fix them or you coach them, or it's better when you fix it when they see it and you can talk about it right there, it just becomes the norm, and the next day it's a little bit better. And as you keep just reinforcing what the expectations are, I think that I'm in charge of or responsible with what's called 10T here is our halfway house, because it's part of the golf experience. So I make a trip down there, check in with Cynthia, who's down there getting things going for the day, and make sure she has what she needs. But I'm also just making sure that how it looks from the counter as a member pulls up between 9 and 10. And so I think it's important for all of us to look at things not just from our perspective, but more importantly from the members' perspective, and see what they're seeing and how they're using it. So it could be standing at the counter. Do you see a bunch of cups, Cokes and things like that in the back, or do you, does it look like it's well organized and somebody's taking care of things there? A term that we use a lot, both here and at Wichita, was every day is the member guest. I don't think that we should amp up for a tournament day or a big event. I think every day should be the same. And again, kind of philosophical deal. The dues that the members pay are the same in January as they are in June. They're the same on Tuesday at 8 in the morning as they are Friday at 1, as they are Sunday night at 8 when you're trying to close down and you've been here, it's been a long week. The service should be the same on all of those times and days and months regardless. And so I think consistent personalized service is something that's really important, and try to figure out how to accomplish it every day. And the term we use just kind of every day is the member guest. That's our big signature event, like a lot of clubs.
Well, the one word that that you mentioned here, experience, and I was thinking about this the other day, and it's such a big term. What's the experience, the member experience? But
right.
When did you start focusing on that, or was there a time when you weren't really thinking about that? Because I think about, as I was a club professional, I didn't really think about that until I worked for Phil Owenby, and that really opened my eyes to what it was so important. It was the only thing really, is the member experience. So was that always in your mind, or tell me
actually,
that.
I think it was not working so much as it was traveling or going to a restaurant or going to a hotel. I think when I became kind of a service kind of weirdo about things like that, is I traveled and got to go to a nice hotel or a nicer restaurant, and then I was spending my own money, and I became more discerning on how I was going to spend that money. And it's not, you can't just have a great steak. You have to have a great steak and a great atmosphere with great service, and if those three ingredients match up, then that gives you value. That gives you perceived value to your member, to your customer, whoever that is. And so I think going to other facilities, I'm trying to think of something, a great facility that I've visited to as a young guy, but seeing how people did things versus how I, grew up or what the things I saw as a child. But I think it's a little bit outside of the golf business, and I realize that the entire experience is made up of a few components, and I think it's not just the great golf course or the cool clubhouse or whatever it is. I think you have to have a great staff and staff that's on point all the time and ready to take care of people in a very genuine, consistent way, and deliver a great product, whether it's a golf tournament or a well merchandised shop or a great lesson program.
How much do you look outside of golf, outside of the bubble of golf for things? I mean, and I'm trying, one of the things that we like to do at GBN, and do want to mention real quick about Brian Smith, who's one of my associates, and he's on this call, and he does a great job, but he's always sending me information about things that are outside the bubble of golf. And, you mentioned that that's sort of how you kind of got weird about service was you were experiencing at other places where you had a great steak, but you didn't have a good experience. But so what do you do to look outside of golf, or is there what's your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's important that we travel, and not just to the golf operations, but to be a student. I always enjoy hearing, the assistants will be talking in the morning about something and where they went the night before, and I'm not going back there because, the survey, and I was like, okay, they're getting it. They're figuring this deal out. And, Jason Ballard's comments about the books and the great selection of books they have at Oak Hills and the library there. We had a library at Wichita, and I'm staring at 100 books right in front of me right now that are all either golf instruction or service, or some sort of business book there. And so I'd love to read those types of books. Raving fans, we have everybody that works here, whether it's in the shop or outside services or interns, they have to read Raving Fans. Obviously, everybody knows it's a real simple read. We have it signed. Everybody who's ever worked with me at Wichita or here in Tulsa has signed the book.
Oh, that's neat.
And it's just a kind of a way to start. But I've got a guy that just came in, read Good to Great, and is kind of a pretty cool story. And he's very service oriented all of a sudden and kind of getting it. So I think it's important just to travel, see other operations, see what they do, as well as when you're just going on vacation or you're going to Orlando for the merchandise show. I mean, go to places like the Peabody or the Ritz or whatever it is, just to check it out. So
yeah, that's good. I'm going to move to our next slide here. Tell us what about this.
You bet. Well, this is kind of simple things. My dad, as I mentioned earlier, was about as detailed a person as you can. There's no gray area whatsoever with my dad, and he always said, it's a professional shop, and you're hanging around professionals and you're taking care of professionals. You better be one yourself. And so that means, tactically, having a clean golf shop, a clean office, storeroom, outside services, we say should be tour ready at all times. And we have, processes in place for cleaning and organization, for opening the shop and opening outside services and closing both those. And, I put one of the bullet points there is files and folders being club branded and organized. And I think, it's just, again, you're wanting to present yourself as a professional to your membership, and we all know that the business, struggled with compensation in the past and not the past, I guess current, but it's tough to get good jobs, tough to warrant, a large enough staff for the amount of hours that we're all open and the work we do. And I think, the only way to do it that I know is to sit down and be a professional, deliver a great experience, work hard, and then it gives you a seat at the table to at least pitch that, hey, I need this or I need that resource to help us even improve a little bit more. And but I think just kind of tactically, it's just important to keep things well organized and clean. We're in a very tight space. I told you yesterday we have our office is myself and 5 assistants in one office, and it's about the size of my closet. So it's not. So we have to be organized, and the shop's 1,000 square feet with a storeroom behind there. But so it's not a big it's not a big shop or big office for the amount of traffic that runs through here. So we have to be clean and organized, but more so I think just from the professional side. And you're always interviewing every day. I'm interviewing for the assistants. I want those guys to believe in me and to buy into what I'm trying to sell to those guys. But I'm also interviewing so I keep my job here for the next 25 years. So I look at every day as an interview, and every day is a competition. And obviously assistants are interviewing for the next position. And we talk a lot about, you never know who that guy that's going to be connected to the head of the search committee of the club that you're going to apply for someday. And
Right.
and I think it's important to put it in their perspective and how it may be important to them. Same thing with our outside services. We get high school kids that probably one of the nicest compliments I've ever had was in a board meeting at Wichita Country Club. Somebody just out of the blue said, "How do you get?" They called them the red shirts because they were always in red shirts out in the parking lot. How do you get the red shirts to work the way they do for basically minimum wage or $8 an hour? I mean, I didn't really have an answer. I didn't have anything smart to say. I said, I don't know what are you talking about. And so he pressed, and we went to lunch a few weeks later and had an opportunity to think about it. And we teach a lot, and I know this one of the slides, but we talk a lot about why, not just how. But one of the things that I think is important on that, just kind of on the interviewing point that is made, is that even that 16-year-old guy whose dad made him get a job at the bag room so that he could fill up his tank, with gas, or take his girlfriend to, on a date, if you can tell him how important his job is and why it's important, and hey, listen, you're making connections here for the rest of your career, potentially. We talk a lot about that and say, I think it's important to put it in their perspective, what's in it for me type of approach, and let them look a little further down the line than I did as a 16-year-old. I can tell you that. And I think it helps them to buy in. It helps them to understand, and we talk about body language, and I laugh at myself sometimes when I get on the radio, ask a guy if he's sad or something wrong, because he's walking with his shoulders slumped, and so we talk a lot about how your nonverbal communication is more important than what you say sometimes, especially for those guys. Is if they're kind of moving at half pace and just kind of hitting the chipping green, just kind of ho hum because it's 100 degrees outside. They're sending a message. And so we talk a little bit. We talk a lot about communication and interviewing, and that sure helps with. I got a little off message here, which I tend to do.
No, but that's good. I mean, because this is all good stuff. And I had a couple thoughts there, or questions. You were talking about the interviewing, and I always looked at it as kind of a two-way street. Sort of you're interviewing the assistants, they're interviewing you, or the club's interviewing you, but you're interviewing the club as well. But how do you identify, or what things do you do to identify the right staff members, individuals, as you're going through that process with them?
Actually, with the hiring process?
Yeah.
Well, I think, that's a great question. I think it's a feel on the person's personality and what you think they're. I'm not as worried about what their knowledge is. We're gonna work a lot on that as they get here. And so it's more of, what do you think their work ethic's going to be? What's their background? What's their personality like? How comfortable are they in the interview process, walking around the club, meeting, introducing them to members and other staff members? Sometimes they're too comfortable. I'd had an interview one time with an assistant in Wichita, and I'd had a sore throat, so I had a bag of cough drops on my side of the desk, and this candidate just stood up in the middle. He was kind of leaning back, in the chair, like he was watching the football game, and stood up while I was in mid-sentence and grabbed the sack of cough drops and just grabbed one and sat back down. And I thought to myself, I really wanted to hire this person, and I thought, if they're that comfortable with me, what are they going to do in the shop? So I didn't obviously hire that person, but I think it's just getting a feel for that, and I've had to do that a little bit this year with, we've hired 2 new outside service managers, and we had like 10 guys apply, all from within other than maybe one. And then the 3 guys that I inherited here, I came down in the fall before I started and talked to all of them, trying to get to know them a little bit, let them get to know me, ask some questions, and so there's a little, feeling out when it comes to that. But I think just, hiring the personality. All of our outside service guys, we have a bigger staff here than we did in Wichita, but and this is a little bit of a change that was here that wasn't quite used to here. I want to meet every single person. I know it seems obvious, but and sometimes it's just a handshake and see how they shake hands and see what their personality looks like and what their background is. Sometimes I go into more depth, and then there's, on occasion I'll say, hey, listen, we're not hiring that person. Why not? I said, we're not. So we're full. Tell them we're full. We're moving. We're going a different direction. So I want to meet every single person that I'm going to work with here. I'm responsible for one, but also I want to have a good relationship with everybody that I work with. And if that happens, then obviously we're going to perform at a better, higher level than if we have somebody that doesn't. I know this. You're going to laugh at this, and I know the guys that are listening have all done this, but I figured out a real sure sign that I need to address something in our staff is when I pull in the morning. If the opener or the person, the staff that's here, if I see their car and I'm not excited to see them, it's probably time for me to give them some coaching or find, and I look at that. I'll say find a new home, because that's not my responsibility. We talk about this a lot as well. Is if we have somebody that's not performing at the level that we want them to perform at, then first of all, it's my responsibility. Have we made all the expectations and the vision for this crystal clear? Have we given them resources? Have we put time into educate them on this and training and things like that? And if that answer is no, then I'm not mad at that employee. I'm mad at myself, and we got to go to work a little bit harder to get that person to do better. And that could be an assistant, that could be an outside service, caddy manager, whatever it is, 10T or halfway house. So if the answer is yes, then maybe it's no fun, but maybe it's a little bit easier decision to move that person on down the road and find somebody that wants to be there. But it kind of dawned on me as I pulled in. I saw a car. I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. I don't want to go in the shop, and there's no reason. It's a fun place. We want to be the best, but we're also not curing cancer. So it needs to be a fun place where people come and enjoy. They get away from all the problems in their world. So when they come to the club, whether it's family or business or whatever, and so we want to deliver an experience that they look forward to pulling in the gate.
Right. Well, that was good. That was a little off topic for us there, but that's all good.
Sure.
And that's, it's fine for it to go that way, because all this stuff I'm intrigued with to hear you talk about, and I'm sure our audience is as well. But went to our next slide here, Cary, if you want to talk a little bit about what you got here with merchandising and golf shop sales.
You bet. Again, those are some kind of tactical points. I think, again, philosophically, merchandising and golf shop sales are simply, in my mind, a result of how we do everything else. We've had some great recognition for the golf shop here and at Wichita, but in reality, I look at that as a barometer of how we're doing. Rounds played and golf shop sales, to me, indicate what kind of job I'm doing as their golf professional, or the assistants are doing, or we are as a staff. And so the term down there at the bottom is the last domino to fall. Golf shop sales are going to simply be a result of how we do in the last domino to fall. Tactically, rotating, and I'll tell you, we didn't do a real good job of this. Probably my first year, I was kind of more, just trying to figure out how to unlock the doors and meet everybody and know everybody's name. But rotating, displays every few weeks throughout the golf season, and still do it in the winter as well. Changing the forms or mannequins weekly, just to kind of keep things fresh. We're all seeing, for the most part, the same people on a daily basis, and so we have to keep the shop looking like it's fresh. We all have great stories of you moved, the Peter Millar from one table to the other side of the shop, and this is brand new stuff, and they're grabbing and they're digging and they're buying things, and so you're like, oh, thank you. But the stuff, the accessory items that are around the counter, the checkout things, the ball marks and the divot tools and the hat clips, all those things, changing those up and keeping those fresh. And then I think changing the floor plan, and it's tough to do. And we had a bigger shop in Wichita, so it's a little bit easier to do. But here with just 1,000 square feet, changing the floor plan is tough. We've only done it twice. But I think those are some good tactical points. But I really think that golf shop sales, of course, you want to have a great mix. You want to look at your slow movers, and we try to cull those out and find new ones at the show that are going to work. And but really, I think our philosophy when it comes to merchandising is we want the shop to look great. We have a specific look that we go for, and standards to folding and presentation, all of those things, of course. But really, how the shop does, in my mind, is just a result of how we're doing overall. What are the tournaments like? What's the instruction program like? We're playing golf with members. Is our service the cornerstone of our operation, and the outside service guys? And I think Jason again made mention of that, talking about the first person. Maybe actually you did that. The first person he comes in contact with, and the last person at the club, are the minimum wage guys that are just here for the summer. And so all those things factor in. Obviously the other departments do as well. So the golf course condition and the cheeseburger and the fitness programs, all those things need to be great as well. Because again, people buy the logo on the merchandise in your shop for the experience. I mean, we're blessed with a historic golf course here with a lot of great tradition and things of those natures. But really, what they're buying is that they're wearing that logo, and they're showing that you experience that. And so I think it all boils back down to that. I know the logos that I buy, if I go buy a hat and I go play somebody, I want to wear the hat. I want to wear the Kinlock hat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to wear it here. But I'm going to wear it. I'm kicking around, or I'm playing golf with buddies somewhere else. I'm going to have a Kinlock T-shirt, or Chechesky Creek, or Preston Trail, or Oakmont, or whatever. And so they, because of the experience they mean,
right,
that they represent. And I think it's important to look at your merchandising philosophy from that standpoint, not just, hey, gosh, how can I compete against the big box stores, or Von Maur or Nordstrom's or whatever. And we obviously have relationships that Nordstrom doesn't have, even though they're selling Peter Millar and other vendors that we all carry. And we have 18 holes that people are coming to play golf, and we have a logo that means something. And I was proud of the amount of logo sales that we had in Wichita, and we went from zero sales. There wasn't anything that had a logo on it when I got there. And I knew. In fact, one became a great friend of our families in Wichita was she said she didn't like the logo. I said, no, you don't like what it represents. She goes, no, I just don't like the WCC. I said, no,
yeah,
you don't like the experience. And so she had a Broadmoor shirt on. I go, is that better looking logo? No, but you love the Broadmoor. Love the Broadmoor. So okay, so it's and she wouldn't buy anything that didn't have it on in the future. So I think it's important to just kind of take a good look at those things.
To me, I think that gets back to the term that service equals sales. That if you're hitting on all cylinders, people are going to want to wear your logo. They're going to want to go sit down and eat. They're going to want to, all those things just kind of revolve around service, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We did have a question here from one of our audience, Craig Callens. He asked if you do you logo all the clothing that comes in your shop, and then Part B, do you vary the location of logo or stick to the left chest primarily?
Great question, and I'm gonna give it two answers. Here we logo just darn near everything, including like the wovens. There was a few of the higher priced items that the things that maybe somebody wasn't going to wear just around the club. We would do it in a more subtle way on the left sleeve, but most of the golf shirts, solid golf shirts, we do all left chest. More of the fancy stripes and patterns, we'll do left sleeve. We do it left sleeve to show, so that that it shows up. And then on sweaters and outerwear and things like that, we do have it on there. But if there's something that we think is going to be maybe a little more off course, worn a little bit off course, we do it. Maybe it's a tone on tone or tonal logo.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, we did a few. We did some sweaters this fall that didn't have the logo at all, and we have the ability to get it logoed here nearby. So most of the, again, there's a great history here of people supporting the logo. And in Wichita, we did the same. We did solid shirts, left chest. We did the fancy stripes on the left sleeve. We kind of mix the sweaters with the logo, and I want to differentiate ourselves from the competition anyway, so that logo helps us where they are shopping. But most of our apparel we did, obviously, shorts, and actually we did some shorts this year with FootJoy that had the logo on the back, above the back pocket, and they went great. But most time we don't do the bottoms, but we do the sweaters and shirts and all those things with the logo.
Do you have a member-only logo?
We do not.
Okay. Craig, hopefully that answered your question there. And if you have any sub-questions, if anybody else has any questions while we're on this topic, please type them in. But I think that's all great. Now, another question I had was, do you have a written schedule for rotation of these displays or cleaning in the golf shop?
Cleaning and organization and kind of go along with opening and closing duties, and yes, those are all written and part of the job description or the processes.
The process.
Yeah, and as far as the mannequins, things like that, the reason we probably struggle is my fault this year, because it's not like we hired a new merchandiser in mid-August, and so we're just kind of getting on the same page now. But she put some big calendars in the back around her workstation, and she has these things on there now, so she knows. And really, it's, merchandising is not just the merchandisers; it's got to be all the rest of us in the shop as well that are going to do the work. But it's written now. It's not part of our standard operating procedures, but it's probably in there, but nobody's going to read that once they've read it once for the most part. So having it on the wall back on the calendar works better. And it's, again, my responsibility to inspect what I expect and walk through and say, how long do we need to look at this,
right,
this mannequin set up this way, this rig with the same stuff on it. So let's get going on this and crank it.
Had a couple other questions come in here. Bobby Pollitt asked, what have you found for the non-PGA employees to be most important, i.e. golf privileges, flexible hours, pay? And this is, I was thinking about this earlier about, you made some comments about the 16-year-old putting gas in his car, and
right.
We've done a lot. I've done a couple presentations about the millennial generation, and, which most of probably a lot of your employees are falling in that, and what they're looking for. And, it's not always direct to compensation, something. And I think this goes to Bobby's question here about, what do you find is the most important thing, or do you think is the most important thing for these individuals?
I agree. I think most of the studies you see out there say that compensation is down the list for this age group that's coming in. And I think those same studies would tell you that it's a work environment and benefits and things of that nature. But what I think, and I think here is, again, it's coaching and applying the golden rule. I spend a lot of time, just because I love it, it's 100% genuine. I enjoy talking to the 16-year-old guy we're just talking about, and getting to know him and get his confidence going to where he can perform at a high level. And if we help him a little bit down the road and come out of his shell, and we've had a number of comments like that, I know, with our outside crew in Wichita, that's about as rewarding as it gets to me, is to have a parent, and especially if they're a member, to come say, hey, I really appreciate the things you've done for our son or our daughter. They've really changed a lot. And I think that comes from just, everybody wants to be part of a winning team. Everybody wants to be part of the solution. Everybody wants to learn, whether we say it or not. We want to be part of things. And by not just hey, go, here's how you clean the range, and here's how you clean carts and clubs. Now go do it and be here on time and punch out on time, and we'll talk to you later. That's how you teach somebody how to do the job. The time that you spend with them and you invest in that each individual, teach them why they're doing the job, and those are skills that they'll take with them long past Southern Hills and working in the outside services. And so I think it's investing time and putting your arm around them, and 99% of the time it's positive and it's coaching. And you also, when you do that, you'll have that 1% of the time where you need to correct something that you're going to have their attention, and you can get it done without any kind of fanfare. They're going to understand that this needs to get better. And so I think it's like I said, I think the studies would tell you that it's going to be not compensation. It's going to be their work environment and the amenities and all the resources. But I think, to me, it's being part of the team and including them on the solution.
Yeah, being included, and also how you treat them. If they feel like
absolutely no, it's that would be my mentorship from my mom. Just the golden rule: if you treat people the way you want to be treated, it makes it pretty simple. And I think in getting feedback, I'd love to hear what the guys that work and gals that work with in the shop, what their opinions are, what we think we should do. And I couldn't even come close to telling you what our operation looked like in 2000 compared to what it looked like in 2015 or what it looks like now, because of all the different feedback and influences and changes that happened through the staff that I worked with, and not my ideas, that's for sure. I see this, and then my only deal is I'm going to argue with you a little bit to make sure you thought through it, but other than that, let's go. If you got to figure out a better way of doing it, let's do it.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quick story. When I opened up this club in North Carolina called Hazen Tree, and I had started from the ground up and hired a young kid. He was great. I mean, one of those high school kids. It's outside operations that you just you'd love to have. And
right.
Part of it was we did annual reviews or whatever it was every 6 months, and I recall giving him a review, and he had a great review. And then of course there's the opportunity for him to give feedback, and I got that feedback, and I felt like I got my review from him. It was like
right.
Management needs improvement, and I'm like, holy cow, here's like a 16-year-old telling me that, and I it helped me for sure. But and one other question that Bobby Pollitt had as a follow-up is, do you hire members' children, or what is the policy at the club?
There's not, and I'll tell you again. I worked in the bag room growing up. My dad hired members' kids as well as people from outside, and I know that we didn't before here, but we did in Wichita, and I think one of the reasons that I love it and I would encourage it is that I know what we do is the right thing, and I know how we treat people is going to be the right way. And if we can give some insight to that member's kid on how much money their parents are spending for them to be members there, and that kid can also be at the dinner table and say, man, they really care about the experience here and taking care of the members, and it's not just any BS you see in the newsletter. These guys are committed to delivering the best. I haven't had one negative comment ever, and we had I'd say a third to half, depending on the time of the year, of the crew at Wichita were members' kids. We haven't had anybody apply here, but I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. Just for the simple reason, I don't mind. I don't mind letting our membership know how hard we're working to make it good here, and make it good for their experience. And if we have a positive effect on their child, I mean, that's obviously going to be, again, there it goes back to interviewing. We've got some people. You got some people on your side moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting take on that, and then I think that's very valid. And if you're like you say, if you're doing the right things, you don't have anything to worry about, and that's only going to benefit you. Well, I've moved on to the next slide here, Cary, and this kind of we were talking, about staffing and things, and I think this fits in with that. But tell us what's the why and not how.
I did touch on this a little bit earlier, and I know I think you did in one of your recent ones as well. But the initial training is just you're teaching somebody how to do the job. There's an old saying that if the man who or the person who knows how to do a job will always have a job, well, the person who knows why will always be the boss. And so it's important that everybody here, I want everybody to, obviously the assistants, I want them to conduct themselves as head professionals. Um, if they're looking around at the operation from 360 degrees versus just what it looks like from behind the counter, then we're going to be better. And we talk a lot about that. I try to look at it from the members' perspective, the staff members' perspective, the club, everything else. I already know what mine is, but I want to see what other people are thinking. And when you do that, I think it allows you to, and I'm getting a little off message here, but I think it allows you to make great decisions moving forward, or better decisions than if you just look at your own perspective. But training and education of your staff, don't just tell them how to do something. Tell them why it's important. Why do we take these steps for these, for this, whatever it is. And if they understand why, and you're talking to them how important it is and what the difference, and you can take this into a bunch of different tangents of why it's important to clean the carts. Why do we have the logo out on the pencil? Why, why are the club washers on the carts fresh water and filled to the top of the the brush? I know it sounds stupid, and you can tell I'm bad on some of these things, on details, but like the club cleaners and things like that. How many times have you gone to a golf course where the water was old and mucky and stunk and was halfway down the brush? And probably not surprising, but I like my clubs to be clean.
Right.
They tend to perform better if there's not stuff in the grooves. But it's just one of those deals. It's the Ritz-Carlton and Four Seasons, those places make a living on details and smells and applying to the senses, and so I go into big soapboxes about things of that nature. And when the economy went bad in '08, just kind of a side deal, the only in hotels and resorts and in restaurants, so the only thing that was growing during that just awful time, which kind of looks like it's coming again, were the high-end exclusive steakhouses, not the Outbacks and not the those. They were closing up, and the hotels were the same. But the only people that were building during that time were Ritz-Carlton and Four Seasons. And there was a hotel chain in Wichita, and they actually developed a new segment of their business that was the higher end boutique type hotel, and they quit building the ones that were extended stay, less expensive places, because people are still going to spend their money. They're going to be more discerning. And from a standpoint of having that 16-year-old cart attendant understand why it's so important to have that cart spotless and have the tires lined up just perfect out there when they do it. Again, it just goes back to the senses and your eyes and ears and nose, all those things. You smell, you feel the place. We again, we plagiarize just darn near every idea we've got, but we've got a small pinion chimney, a pinion pot over stuck in the landscape that during the fall and kind of winter we'll fire that up on a good day, and just nobody's we had 50 people comment about it this year. I feel like I'm on vacation, and it's just hilarious because we're right in the middle of town now, because when it was built we were way outside of town, but we're right in the center of Tulsa, and so for them to be able to feel like they're on vacation is good. And again, I'm going to get off subject again, but our membership, most of them live right here. They travel to their other places during the winter and the summer, and everything looks good when you're on vacation. Or your second home in Scottsdale or Palm Springs or Florida, wherever it is, everything looks good there because you're leaving your work and everything that you normally do, and you're just going there to play golf. Here, people are living their lives, and so we have to understand that, appreciate it, and make sure that we're delivering at the same level that where they're going. They're well traveled. They know good. They're discerning. They spend their money and they look for value. And so we have to elevate ourselves that much more, simply because of that fact alone, that most of our members live right here close to us, and they come in here and they're just leaving the office. Well, instead of Scottsdale, they may be no offense to anybody in Scottsdale, but they're leaving the workout and breakfast and a yoga class, going up stretching and having a burger and going to tea it and having a glass of wine. So I mean, it's a little different deal, and so it's kind of back to the why, but we talk a lot of just in depth, and I like to take things 10 steps further to let somebody go, okay, this is important. It is important that the logo on the pencil is facing out and it's on the right side, and it's the club cleaners are fresh water with maybe just a little bit of soap in them, those types of things.
Now, would you consider like this the why and then in the not in this sort slide that we're looking at? This is about culture, right? I mean,
absolutely.
The service culture of at your club and your operation. So, what do you? I mean, and you've kind of done this, but what do you? I mean, are you just? Is this leading by example? I mean, pretty much what you're doing
Absolutely.
on a daily basis.
And I really should say why, not just how, and not how, because you obviously got to teach somebody how to do to do the job. But
yeah.
But I think it's knowing your role, your audience, knowing that everything that I do, I'm making it okay, whether it's good or bad, for that person to conduct themselves like that. It's just a professional merchandiser, caddy managers, 10T. So my energy, they're going to take my role. They're going to take my cue on how I'm conducting myself, and so that needs to be, I need to be conscious of that. And so every single thing, every person is important. And again, back to interviewing, but knowing your role every day. It doesn't matter what's happened to me outside the gate. I mean, doesn't take long. Everybody's got their own pile of junk they got to deal with. But when you come here, you have to put that aside. And I've had that conversation with a lot of guys and gals I worked with, and hey, listen, I get it, and everybody's comes in different shapes and forms and isms, but at the end of the day, we're all dealing with it, and so it's you have to just come in here and be positive about it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So our last slide here with the tips for attention to detail: stay relevant, and what are the best doing. So what do you do to do these things?
Again, kind of I want to learn from what others are doing, and again, this is a competition to me. I want us to be the best, and so to do that, you have to look around and see what other people are doing, and traveling, whether it's to other golf operations or just in Orlando next week. We all should be. If you take your kids to the Disney park, I mean, who does it better than Disney? And there's lessons and examples to learn from there. A couple things that we've done specifically, the alliance with peer clubs. I have two actually. The Midwest Mentoring is a group of guys. Cameron at Preston Trail and Simon Buckle at Brook Hollow and John Lanham at Prairie Dunes and I, when I was at Wichita, we had kind of we were talking actually after an assistance summit when it was AMF, and about how do we get some of these kids. We committed to an intern program where we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 interns a year, and then we would have a grading system. We would share information, and found somebody that was really, really good, then we got them to the next club, one of the other 3 clubs. We try to keep the good talent, in the middle. Mm-hmm. trying to get it's tougher to get people to come out to the middle, and obviously 4 great clubs, but at the same time we wanted to if we had a great person at Wichita Country Club, and now we've expanded as some of our guys have moved on, but to commit to internships and do that. So I think that's one thing, and then the other one, to kind of down there on the assistant professional exchange, Phil Owenby and I, back to every day as a member guest. I called Phil during a member guest in Wichita 5 or 6 years ago, and I started talking to him about, I'd heard that college football coaches, they'll go visit each other's campus, and share information during the off season. And why aren't we doing that? And I'd met Phil through a Peter Millar deal, and knew we kind of saw the world from the same side of the fence. And so we talked that day, and we kind of got going actually with Steve Archer and John Marino and a few others. But right now, Phil and he's at Chessie, and Gus Jones at Martis Camp, and Scott and I at Marion. We have an assistant professional exchange program where for our member guest, one of their assistants are going to come in and help us for the week. Obviously, it helps us that week to deliver an even better experience to our members and their guests for our signature event of the year. The assistants are learning great things. So, one of our guys goes to Martis Camp. He's, in his resume, he's going to earn his experience. He's not just going to have the swingaroo here at Southern Hills. He's going to have, if he's here 3 or 4 years, he's going to have 3 or 4 different member guests to draw from when it comes to his experience. And then my expectation is when our guys go travel, they're going to come back and make ours better for the next year. And so we finally kind of got going last year. Phil sent the guy managing his locker room, one of his assistant professionals, and a food and beverage manager here for the entire week. And we had an assistant that went out to Chessie and to Martis Camp, and we have one going this year to all 3 of those events. And there's a little bit of resources committed to that. Basically, the travel. When they Phil put him up in a hotel, or Chessie did, but I think one of our guys went to Martis Camp. He just stayed in Gus's basement. So. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a huge expense. It's just an airfare to get somebody there and tell them to take a notepad and plagiarize as much as they can and come back. I think that always learning how to improve and talking to others, and that's probably my favorite thing about the show is just the interaction and learning and seeing what other people are doing and hearing what other people are doing, and get you fired up to come back and figure out how it can work for your own club.
Yeah, that assistant professional exchange is I think that's a great idea. And then I think about it from the standpoint of the assistant and them being able to tout that, on their resume as they go to look, for a head professional position. I think that's just, invaluable. And
on that note, on the assistants deal, it helps us. It's going to help us all attract better assistants when you get to do that, because even though you're working, you get to, it's not like working. I'm doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm just doing it in Philadelphia. But it's different. But I think in how we selected the everybody's season. So I think it's important to find somebody that's in a different season than you are, not just your buddy. Mm-hmm. And so I knew Gus through, I'd met him a couple times, and I met Scott just a couple times. But I think it's you just find that. Whatever your member guest or your signature event is, and then you find guys that are in different parts of the country so you can share.
Yeah. That's great. We had a couple questions here, Cary, as we kind of wrap things up, and we're sort of coming. Did you have anything else you want to touch on here? But I wanted to.
No, I'll shut up.
Yeah. No. You want to ask questions, but and if anybody has any questions as we sort of wind this down, would love to. Now would be the time to type them in so we can pick Cary's brain here. But from Jack Davis was, how much do you and your staff use checklists, for example, tournament checklists and merchandising procedures, etc.? And before you answer that, just real quick, Jack, and everybody in this, Bobby Pollitt, who's on this call from PTE Golf, they have a tournament checklist on their website. I don't know if anybody's ever looked at that, but if you get a chance, go to the PTE Golf website. They actually have a tournament checklist, and I think we have that on their page on our website as well. But anyways, go ahead, Cary, and answer that about the checklist.
We do have it. Now I'm a huge list guy. I just to-do list, and I write everything down. I know technology is available, but I don't want to look like I'm texting when I'm typing things into my phone, so I still write everything down. But we have pre-tournament and tournament checklists just to make sure we don't have anything slip through the cracks. And then we have I think a great receiving, ordering, receiving, charging list as well when it comes to procedures for merchandise. That it helps us, it's not just making sure it gets charged, making sure it gets charged correctly, and there's steps, and different people have different responsibilities to make sure that we don't miss anything. Again, I think it's important, again, back to that professionalism and conducting yourself as a professional, since we're dealing with pretty much exclusive professionals at our at our facilities. But yeah, we do have a checklist for just about everything.
Um, That's great. And then Andy Schumann had a question. This is more for me about the availability of this recording. We're recording this. This is going to be on the website. We also will put these slides available in a PDF on the website as well. So if anybody has any other questions they want to ask of Cary or myself, certainly want to give a couple minutes here for that. Again, want to just mention about the PGA show. We're really looking forward to seeing everybody down there. So go to the website, look at our calendar of events, and register. And I know I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there, and hopefully catch up with Cary a little bit there as well. Cary, really appreciate your
Sure.
time and your thoughts. I mean, that was awesome. Just listening to you, I probably
My pleasure.
I didn't need to say
Problem.
a thing. I could have let you do this on your own, but really appreciate it. And again, look forward to seeing you in Orlando, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.
Thanks, Cary. Oh wait,
All right.
no, we just had a couple thank yous from a couple guys. So